Captain Ilara Voss gripped the armrest of her command chair, the bridge's hum vibrating through her bones like an approaching storm. The view screen dominated the forward wall, a vast starfield streaked with hyperspace's blue-white glow. Her crew, a tight-knit trio handpicked from Earth's scattered fleets, moved with the quiet efficiency forged in too many close calls. Lieutenant Kai Ren, her wiry engineer with a perpetual squint from endless schematics, tapped his console, fingers coaxing life from the dying machine. Beside him, Dr. Mira Singh, the team's xenobiologist, leaned forward, dark eyes locked on a holographic display flickering with alien script. And then there was Jax, the hulking security chief, arms crossed over his chest, his scarred face mapping battles won and lost, mostly won judging by his grin. The alert klaxon shattered the calm, red lights pulsing across the bridge. Ilara straightened, her voice slicing through the chaos like a laser. Report. Kai didn't look up, his tone clipped. Proximity alert. Company dropping out of hyperspace ahead, big signature. Not one of ours. Myra's brow furrowed, fingers tracing the hollow's edges. Scans confirm a Vexery dreadnought. Single vessel, but it packs enough firepower to glass a moon. They're hailing us. Ilara's jaw tightened. The Vexery, tentacled overlords who'd ravaged the outer colonies like a plague, demanding fealty from every world they touched. Earth had resisted, of course, but resistance meant running, hiding, striking from shadows. This encounter? It reeked of a trap. On screen. Kai, prep evasion protocols. Jax, get to the turrets. The view screen shimmered, resolving into a Vexery commander, its elongated head swaying, multifaceted eyes gleaming with cold calculation. Bioluminescent veins pulsed along its neck, casting eerie shadows. Human vessel, it intoned, voice a synthesized rasp echoing through translators. You trespass in sovereign space. Surrender your craft and crew for processing. Compliance ensures mercy. Ilara met those unblinking eyes, pulse steady despite the knot in her gut. Vexery mercy was code for dissection and data mining. This is open space, Commander. No one's sovereign here but the stars. We're just passing through. The alien's tendrils twitched, an irritation she'd learned from Myra's briefings. Your species defies the concordance. Earth will kneel as all worlds do. Transmit coordinates for docking, or we will extract them by force. Kai muttered, shields at full. Their weapons charging ETA 30 seconds. Ilara's mind raced. The Odyssey was fast, a scavenger hull retrofitted with human ingenuity, but against a dreadnought? It was a knife against a cannon. Mira, any weak points? Something we can exploit. The doctor shook her head, voice low and urgent. Their hull's adaptive alloy shifts to absorb energy. But their command nexus is vulnerable if we overload the sensor array. Precision hit though. One chance. Jax's voice crackled from the intercom. Turrets hot, Cap say the word. The Vexery commander leaned closer, filling the screen. Your silence is defiance. Prepare for boarding. Ilara slammed her fist on the console. Evasive maneuvers, Kai. Jax, target their sensors. Fire on my mark. The ship lurched as engines thrummed, the hyperspace tunnel collapsing in distortion. Alarms wailed, the view screen fracturing with incoming fire, plasma bolts streaking like vengeful comets. Kai's hands blurred. Dropping into real space, now. Reality snapped back, stars sharpening into focus. The Odyssey twisted, a fragile dart evading the dreadnought's broadsides. Jax's turrets barked, kinetic rounds slamming the alien's underbelly. A spark flared on the enemy hull, brief but telling, the sensor array blooming with secondary explosions. The Vexery vessel shuddered, pursuit faltering as systems recalibrated. Ilara exhaled, wiping sweat from her brow. Good hit. Mira, damage assessment. They're blind in that sector, won't last. But reinforcements inbound. Swarms coming. Ilara nodded, command's weight settling heavier. Earth's fight wasn't just survival anymore, it was proving humanity wouldn't break. Plot for the nebula. Lose them in the interference, then double back to the relay. If we warn the colonies. The crew moved as one, the bridge pulsing with purpose. Outside, the void swallowed their trail, stars watching indifferently as the gamble unfolded. Captain Alara Voss gripped the armrests of her command chair, the bridge consoles hum a steady underscore to the tension coiling in her gut. The view screen dominated the forward bulkhead, framing Earth's blue marble against the void, pristine, oblivious, a prize the Vexery Dominion had claimed 1,000 times in simulations. But this was real. Her fleet, 7 sleek cruisers bristling with plasma lances and boarding drones, orbited beyond the moon's shadow, cloaked in cutting-edge stealth fields. No human radar had pinged them yet. "Status report," she said, voice clipped, eyes fixed on the planet. Lieutenant Kale, her tactical officer, a wiry Vexery with iridescent scales flickering under dim lights, tapped his console. "All systems nominal, Captain. Probes show minimal orbital defenses, scattered satellites, a few manned stations, nothing we can't touch. Groundside, military's fragmented, no unified command." Alara nodded, doubt gnawing despite herself. Vexery High Command had dismissed Earth as backwater ripe for assimilation. Resource-rich, population too divided to resist. Orders were clear: subjugate key centers, install compliance nodes, integrate humans as labor caste. Yet briefings noted anomalies, irregular warfare from history, asymmetric responses. She shoved it aside. Sentiment had no place in conquest. "Launch Vanguard drones," she commanded. "Target North American Nexus, Washington. Neutralize leadership, broadcast surrender directive." Kale's fingers danced, the view screen splitting to show insect-like drones detaching from hangars, streaking into atmosphere like silver hornets. Ensign Mira Thorne, the xenobiologist at her station, leaned forward. Her role: assess native psychology post-invasion, though her enthusiasm veered toward naivety. "Captain, scans show elevated electromagnetic chatter. Global communication, social networks. Modulate the directive for linguistic variances." Alara shot her a glance. "Efficiency over accommodation, Ensign. Translator will handle it. Focus on biological compatibility for integration." Mira subsided, scales rippling with unease. Alara ignored it, watching drones pierce upper atmosphere, trails invisible to human eyes. On the surface, in a dimly lit bunker beneath the Pentagon, General Marcus Hale eyed the skies, or his screen's version of them. Alarms blared softly, red lights pulsing like a heartbeat. His team was lean, Hale broad-shouldered and grizzled from Special Ops, Dr. Lena Ortiz, astrophysicist turning theory to weapons. Sergeant Raj Patel, comms expert whose humor hit a razor mind. "They're here," Hale said flatly, pointing to the radar anomaly, a ghost signature flickering. "Not probes. Something bigger." Lena adjusted her glasses, fingers flying over holographics. "Stealth tech advanced. Vexery, I'd bet my tenure. But why now? Deep space arrays picked their fleet weeks ago, we've prepped." Raj grinned, eyes on encrypted channels flooding from global allies. "Prepping's useless if they glass us from orbit. Misdirection nets spinning, fake signals bouncing everywhere. Buys time." Hale clapped his shoulder, grounding them. They drilled for this. No stand-up fight, but a scramble, unraveling enemy plans with cleverness. The first drone strike hit like thunder over the capital, but veered into the Potomac, exploding in a geyser soaking oblivious tourists. Alara's bridge erupted in confusion. "What happened?" Hale paled. "Interference, jamming fields, low-orbit bursts. Drones scattering." Myra's console beeped. "Captain, human transmissions adapting. Broadcasting counterfrequencies already. They anticipated the vectors." Alara's jaw tightened. The swift cowing phase was fracturing. She leaned forward. "Redirect fleet. Prepare direct assault on eastern seaboard. We'll show the cost of defiance." Below, in the bunker, Hale's team exchanged looks as false capital feeds lit with chaos. Simulated evacuations, phantom explosions. "They're biting," Raj murmured. "But it won't hold forever." Lena nodded, pulling EMP schematics. The real fight ignited, Earth's grit bending the invader's script. Captain Alara Voss gripped the observation deck railing, knuckles whitening as stars blurred into streaks beyond the viewport. The Endeavor's engines hummed low and insistent, driving them into uncharted space, or so logs claimed. Beside her, Dr. Kai Ren adjusted his glasses, peering at the holographic display flickering with anomalies. "These signals aren't random," he muttered, voice steady despite his furrowed brow. "Patterned like a beacon drawing us in." Lieutenant Marcus Hale leaned against the bulkhead, arms crossed, easy grin masking shoulder tension. "Or a trap. We've chased ghosts for weeks. What if it's another dead end?" Ilara shot him a look, no heat in it. Marcus's caution had saved them from asteroid fields and solar flares alike, his quick hands on controls pulling miracles. The alert klaxon blared, red lights pulsing across the deck. Ilara straightened, focus sharpening. "Report," she barked into the comm. Ensign Lila Torres's voice crackled from the bridge, urgent. "Captain, gravitational anomaly dead ahead. Massive, artificial. Pulling us in, thrusters fighting at max." Kai's fingers flew, pulling schematics. "Not natural," he confirmed, optimism yielding to alarm. "Structure cloaked till now. Size suggests a station, or a ship continent long." Marcus pushed off the wall, heading for the hatch. "I'll reinforce engineering. If we're yanked, hull cracks before we know it." Ilara nodded, resolve stealing her features as she followed. Corridors thrummed, the ship groaning under strain. In the engine room, Lila barked orders to techs, woody sarcasm cutting chaos. "If this wants a hug, terrible timing," she quipped, rerouting power efficiently. But as Marcus dove into access panels, sparks flying from conduits, the pull intensified. Alarms wailed, hull integrity dropping. Ilara's comm buzzed with Kai's voice. "Captain, life signs. Thousands. Hailing us, audio only, no visuals." The message cascaded in clicks and tones, AI translated. Asterisk, surrender your vessel. You trespass in the Dominion's veil. Comply or be unmade. Asterisk, Marcus swore, sweat beading as he jury-rigged a stabilizer. Not asking nicely. Ilara weighed options. Fleeing burned engines, fighting blind was suicide. Hail back. We're explorers, not invaders. By time. Lila patched it, fingers trembling slightly. Response swift. Asterisk, explorers do not pierce the veil without tribute. Prepare to be boarded. Asterisk, the ship lurched, docking clamps slamming with metallic screech echoing decks. Ilara exchanged glances with Marcus. His eyes sharp, ready. Ozone thick in the air, the Endeavor no longer its own master. Under emergency lights, they barricaded the airlock, Kai joining with a makeshift scanner. "They're techs beyond us," he admitted, wit subdued. "But disrupt the clamps." Ilara's hand on his shoulder, grit shining. "We will. Together." Pressure equalized with a hiss. Shadows moved beyond the hatch, tall, angular figures in iridescent armor, weapons humming otherworldly. The door buckled under the first blast, survival's fight igniting in earnest. Captain Elena Vasquez gripped the battered shuttle's control yoke, knuckles white against worn leather. Stars streaked past like accusations, but her focus locked on sensor readouts. Below loomed the orbital platform, a glittering alien alloy web, the invaders' command nexus, nerve center for fleet ultimatums to Earth's defenses. But Elena knew its truth. A vulnerability, single failure point in overconfident design. Beside her, Marcus Hale hunched over auxiliary console, fingers dancing on jury-rigged interface. The wiry engineer wiped sweat, muttering. "Built like a fortress, but power grid's a joke. One EMP surge, lights up like 4th of July." His grit, honed scavenging derelicts in early war, spoke through hacks, not speeches. In co-pilot's seat, Dr. Lila Chen adjusted glasses, calm contrasting cabin tension. She scanned encrypted underground streams, piecing the puzzle. Shields modulate predictably, every 47 seconds. Time the approach, slipped through like ghosts. Lila's caution had saved them countless times, analysis sharpening instinct to strategy. The shuttle shuddered into the debris field, human counterstrike remnants floating as sentinels. Elena banked hard, dodging a spinning girder. "Hold on. Going in hot." Steady voice, pounding heart. This raid was statement. The aliens, towering, chitin-plated crottery, expected submission, psychic probes unraveling minds in first waves. Humanity's secret? We fought dirty with incomprehensible tools. Alarms blared as Nexus sensors pinged. Marcus slammed console. Locking on. Diverting to stealth, now. Sparks flew, engines whining. Elena pushed throttle, weaving metallic graveyard. A laser turret swiveled, beams slicing meters away, heat washing hull in scorched scent. Lila's voice sharp, cycle ending in 10, 9, 8. Elena counted, muscles coiled. At 0, thrusters fired, slipping shields vulnerability. The Nexus filled viewport, spires pulsing ethereal blue. Docking clamps latched an access port with metallic clang reverberating frame. They moved as shadows in corridors, EVA suits humming. Marcus led, multi-tool interfacing first node. Bypassing off. Encrypted with kindergarten math. Click, door hissed open to glowing conduits. Elena covered rear, pulse rifle humming low. Sterile air laced ozone setting teeth on edge. A rumble echoed walls. Lila froze, scanner beeping. Intruder alert. Adapted, reinforcements inbound. Elena's jaw tightened. Plan flawless on paper. Infiltrate, plant virus, overload core. Reality bit back in the beast's belly. Marcus grinned fiercely, yanking cable. Improvise. Elena, cover while I reroute to mainframe. She nodded, positioning behind console as Crothery drones skittered in, eyes gleaming. First rifle shot cracked silence, shattering carapace in viscous spray. Marcus worked feverishly, sweat beading. Almost, got it. Conduits flared, feedback surging, shorting drones and sparks. They pressed deeper, Earth's hope on shoulders. But Lila's glance spoke, victory if won costly. Alarms wailed, drawing Crothery fleet might. Time bled, error margin thinning. Captain Alara Voss gripped the command console edge, knuckles whitening against cold metal. The UNS Vanguard, bridge hummed with overtaxed engines, red lights casting jagged shadows on crew faces. Lieutenant Marcus Hale, steady hand, punched NAV coordinates, brow furrowed. Beside him, Dr. Lena Reyes monitored sensors, fingers dancing over flickering holographics like dying stars. Closing fast, Reyes said, voice tight but even. Croth dreadnoughts locked our jump. 2 minutes were ducks. Voss nodded, options racing. Croth Empire ambushed their convoy in Outer Rim, boarding like locusts. Earth Command scrambled Vanguard for extraction, now a chase through shredding asteroid fields. She glanced at Hale, his caution balancing her boldness. Marcus best vector? Can't outrun. His eyes narrowed on tactical. Belt's thickest cluster ahead, risky buys time. Thread the needle, force slow down. Hesitation hung. Wrong move, debris claimed before Croth. Do it, Voss ordered. Ship lurched, thrusters angling into rock ice chaos. Alarms blared, proximity web on viewport. Meteor clipped shields, vibration rattling teeth. Reyes swore. Shields 70%. Firing disruptors, disable not destroy. Want us for interrogation. Voss clenched jaw. Croth probed colonies months, demands force surrender and integration threatening. Earth refused, betting ingenuity over force. But Void made it life's gamble. Evasive Delta. Hale auxiliary to forward arrays. Reyes scan formation weak points. Vanguard asterisk twisted through asteroids, storm dancer. Hale plotted slingshot around dwarfing boulder. Silence gripped bridge, then impact. Not rocks. Croth tractor beam latched, pulling like hooked fish. Gaining, Hale grunted, sweat beading. Can't break without ripping nacelles. Voss straightened, resolve stealing crew. Make them regret the hook. Comms open, Croth vessel, Captain Voss, United Nations Space. Stand down, or see why humans don't yield. Static, then synthesized arrogance, primitive vessel, resistance futile. Submit, crew may serve empire. Reyes's eyes lit. Captain beams feedback loop. Modulate engines to resonate. Voss caught it, human cleverness turning weapon. Hale sync engines. Full reverse on mark. Ship shuddered, power surging. Asteroids loomed, dreadnought silhouette growing rear screen. Voss counted, heart pounding. Mark. Engines roared opposition, resonance building like tuning fork. Beam wavered, snapped, overloading Croth emitters and distant sparks. Pursuer veered, trailing plasma. Cheers erupted, short. Voss scanned, 2 freighters lost, pods scattering belt. Survivors? Reyes shook head. Patching but jammed. Double back. Hail wiped brow. Stunt cost thrusters. Limping. Voss stared void cost like dust. Croth regrouped, regret dawning. Earth's fight demanded more than victory. Press on, ingenuity shield. Course for retrieval. No one left behind. Captain Elena Vasquez gripped the battered cargo hauler's throttle, knuckles white on worn controls. Ship shuddered, skimming asteroid belt edge, debris pinging like gunfire. Beside her, Jax leaned forward, eyes on scanners, fingers on panels. Closing, 2 clicks, gaining. Frigates got our scent. She focused on jagged rocks ahead, labyrinth shredding alien sleekness. Hold. Not running blind. Punched engines weaving skyscraper boulder gap. Hauler groaned, held. Behind, pursuit faltered, formation breaking on recalculations too precise for chaos. In hold, Dr. Mirachin monitored jury-rigged device. A scavenged satellite human fusion mimicking alien commands. Signal stable, she called intercom, steady despite sweat. Spoof fleet relay hour at least. Slip into debris. Jax snorted, monitor showing wary alien circle. Time for what? Admirals no idiots. Glitch they glass belt. No bite. He'd trusted teams grit over strategy and improvised runs. Elena felt doubts pull, colony supplies weight like hand. Aliens blockaded Earth months, command edicts starving Luna fringe outposts. Regret? What she'd plant in scaled hides today. Banked left, threading tumbling twins. Alarms lit, too close always. Clear vector, Jax announced, highlighting. Tight. Wrong nudge, space dust. Don't nudge wrong. Elena's grim smile. Eased into slot, rock scraping sparks flanks. Rear screen. Frigate hesitated, commander weighing pursuit humiliation. Peeled off, broken English warning. Surrender vessel, primitives. Resistance accelerates obsolescence. Myra's laugh crackled, defiant. Primitives? Tell that to device making fleet dance our tune. Initiated spoof, systems pulsing borrowed frequencies. Silence broken by creaks. Then scanner chaos. Signatures flickered, ships veering, firing phantoms from jam. Working, Jax breathed, fist pump. Chasing ghosts. Elena breathed, guiding deeper where hidden relay waited. But Mira urgent, overload 30 seconds. Dock now, op scrapped. Path narrowed, razor corridor, flanked spinning wreckage, old skirmish. Elena's hands steadied. Flown worse on synth whiskey. Strap. Rattles teeth. Hauler plunged, engines roaring defiance. Outside, confusion bought minutes, but Elena knew fleeting. Regret dawning, humans didn't break easy, proving with fire, scrap. Relay docking lights flickered, view a stray asteroid clipped wing, spinning them. Alarms wailed. Jax stabilizers. Elena barked, wrestling. On it. Slammed overrides, lurching straight as Mira sealed payload. Slammed dock, bone-jarring thud, clamps auto-engaging. Stumbled into dim bay, ozone-thick triumph. Scanner's truth, fleet regrouping, disarray to fury. 10 minutes, Jax said, wiping grease. Play. Elena met Myra's sparklit gaze. Hit harder. Command exposed, make crumble. Cost mounting, hauler crippled, supplies last reserves. Blockade face, regret sharper than laser. Just starting. Captain Alara Voss gripped the edge of Teehee command console, her knuckles whitening against the cold metal. The bridge of the UNS Vanguard hummed with urgency, red emergency lights casting jagged shadows across the faces of her crew. Alarms blared in staccato bursts, syncing with the rapid thump of her heart. Outside the viewport, the alien armada loomed like a swarm of metallic locusts, their energy shields flickering as human missiles probed for weaknesses. Status on the warp disruptors? She barked, her voice cutting through the din. Lieutenant Ramirez, ever the steady hand, didn't look up from his holographic display. His fingers danced across the interface, rerouting power from non-essential systems. Online in 30 seconds, Captain. But the Zorathians are adapting, their jammers are locking onto our frequency. Alara nodded, her mind racing through contingencies. The Zorath fleet had ambushed them in the outer rim, their initial demand for Earth's surrender echoing through subspace channels like a decree from gods. But humans didn't bow, they fought dirty, clever, and unrelenting. She'd seen it in the simulations, felt it in the grit of her team. Now, with the Vanguard's engines straining against gravitational tugs from the enemy tractors, it was time to prove it. Ensign Kira Patel burst onto the bridge, her engineering toolkit slung over one shoulder, grease smudged across her cheek like war paint. "Captain, auxiliary powers holding, but if we don't vent the plasma coils soon, we'll cook ourselves from the inside." Her eyes sharp and unyielding met Alara's. Kira was the wild card, brilliant, impulsive, the one who jury-rigged their escape from the asteroid field 2 jumps back by turning a coffee synthesizer into an EMP burst. "Do it," Alara ordered. "Ramirez, sync the disruptors to the vent. Let's give them a light show they won't forget." The plan was risky. Overload the coils to create a localized EMP wave, amplified by the disruptors, hopefully frying the Zorathians' shield harmonics without turning the Vanguard into space debris. As the ship shuddered, Alara felt the deck plates vibrate beneath her boots. A low groan echoed through the hull, like the vessel itself protesting. Through the viewport, she watched a Zorath cruiser edge closer, its bulbous form bristling with plasma cannons. They were the invaders who'd glassed colonies on the fringe worlds, their empire built on subjugation and fear. But Earth? They'd underestimated the Blue Marble's children. 10 seconds, Ramirez called, sweat beading on his brow. Kira knelt by an access panel, her tools whirring as she bypassed safeties. "Make it 8, she muttered, her voice laced with that defiant spark that had earned her a spot on this crew. The alarms peaked, then cut to silence as the vent released. A brilliant azure arc erupted from the Vanguard's flank, slamming into the void like a thunderclap made visible. The Zorath shields wavered, sparks dancing across their hulls as systems shorted. One cruiser listed, its engine sputtering blue fire. But victory was fleeting. A retaliatory beam lanced out, grazing the Vanguard's hull. Alarms screamed anew, hull breach in Sector 3. Alara's stomach dropped. "Damage report. Containment holding, but we've lost Atmo in the lower decks," Ramirez replied, his comm cracking for the first time. Kira was already moving, toolkit in hand. "I'll seal it. Buy me time." Alara watched her go, the weight of command settling heavier. They'd bought a reprieve, scattered the lead ships, but the Armada was regrouping. Earth's defense hinged on ships like this reaching the core worlds intact, rallying the fleet. One wrong move, and regret would be the Zorathians' legacy, but only if they survived to tell it. In the flickering light, Alara straightened, her resolve hardening like forged steel. "Helm, plot evasive to the nebula. We're not done yet." The stars blurred as the Vanguard surged forward, a lone wolf among predators, carrying the unyielding spirit of humanity into the fray. Captain Alara Voss gripped the armrest of her command chair, the hum of the auxiliary engines vibrating through the deck like a distant earthquake. The bridge of the UNS Vanguard was a hive of controlled chaos, consoles flickering with red alerts, officers murmuring terse updates into headsets. Outside the viewport, the asteroid field's jagged silhouettes twisted in the starlight, a graveyard of shattered rock that hid the alien fleet's ambush. Her team had pushed too far, too fast, chasing the Zorathian command ship through this debris-choked void. Now they were boxed in. "Status on the shields?" Alara asked, her voice steady despite the knot in her gut. She glanced at Lieutenant Marco Reyes, the wiry engineer whose quick fingers danced over his panel. "Holding at 60%, Captain," Marco replied, sweat beading on his forehead. But that last pulse from their disruptor array shaved off another 10. "One more hit, and we're venting atmosphere." The plan had been simple. Slip through the field undetected, board the Zorathian flagship, and upload the virus that would cripple their hive mind network. Human ingenuity against their rigid protocols, turn their overconfidence into a weapon. But the aliens had anticipated the route, deploying drone swarms that now buzzed like angry hornets against the hull. "Helm, evasive pattern Delta 7, she ordered. Ensign Lila Chin, the youngest on the bridge but with reflexes honed by years in sims, twisted the controls. The Vanguard lurched, thrusters firing in short bursts to weave between tumbling boulders. A drone clipped the edge of the ship, sparks erupting from a secondary hull breach, but they cleared the immediate threat. From the tactical station, Sergeant Kira Novak leaned forward, her scarred face illuminated by the holographic display. The ex-marine's eyes narrowed as she tracked the enemy signatures. They're herding us toward the dense cluster at bearing 240. If we go in there, no room to maneuver. We need to punch a hole in their formation, now. Elara considered it. Kira's instincts were sharp, forged in ground wars where hesitation meant death. But the risk? Options. Marco spun in his chair. We could vent the cargo bay, use the debris as a smokescreen. Buy us time to loop back and flank. It was a gamble, sacrificing non-essential mass to cloud sensors. Elara's jaw tightened. The cargo held supplies for the colonies they'd sworn to protect. But survival first. Do it. Kira, ready the boarding team. If we get an opening, we're going in hot. The order rippled through the crew. Alarms blared as hatches opened, spewing crates and spare parts into the void. The cloud billowed, a temporary fog that masked the Vanguard's signature. Lila pushed the engines hard, the ship groaning under the strain as they arced toward the Zarathian line. For a heartbeat it worked. Drones veered into the debris, colliding in bursts of plasma. The command ship loomed larger, its crystalline hull pulsing with energy. Elara felt a surge of grim hope, human grit turning the tide, one desperate move at a time. Then the sensors screamed. A Zarathian cruiser decloaked directly astern, its weapons priming with a whine that echoed through the comms. The smokescreen had bought them seconds, not minutes. Incoming torpedoes. Lila shouted. Elara's hand slammed the override. All power to forward shields. Fire countermeasures. The bridge shuddered as torpedoes detonated, shockwaves rattling the frame. Marco cursed, rerouting energy from life support to hold the barrier. Air grew stuffy, recyclers straining, but the shields flickered, held. Kira was already moving, grabbing her helmet from the rack. Teams geared up, Captain. Say the word. Elara met her gaze, the weight of command pressing down. The virus was their edge, the one thing the Zarathians couldn't predict. A digital backdoor exploiting their collective over-reliance. But getting it aboard meant breaching that fortress of a ship while the fleet closed in. Failure here, and Earth's defenses crumbled, billions lost to alien subjugation. Words given, Elara said. Launch the shuttle on my mark. As the Vanguard twisted free, trading fire with the cruiser, Elara watched the boarding craft detach. Kira's team vanished into the black, a speck against the storm. The captain allowed herself one breath, tasting the metallic tang of recycled air. Regret wasn't an option, not when humanity's future hung in the balance. But as another barrage lit the void, she wondered if they'd pushed their luck too far this time. Captain Elena Vasquez gripped the railing of the makeshift command deck, her knuckles white against the rusted metal. The orbital station hummed with the low growl of overtaxed generators, and through the viewport, Earth's night side bloomed with defiant lights, cities refusing to dim, even under the shadow of the Vexary fleet. Beside her, Dr. Liam Hargrove wiped sweat from his brow, his fingers dancing over a holographic display that flickered like a dying firefly. The virus is holding in their primary nodes, he muttered, voice steady despite the strain. But if they isolate the core ship, we're blind. Across the deck, Kale, the Vexary defector, paced with his elongated limbs folded in agitation. His iridescent skin shifted from uneasy blues to sharp grays, betraying the turmoil his kind usually masked. They won't isolate it, he said, stopping to jab a claw at the display. Admiral Zorith is arrogant, thinks your human code is a primitive glitch. But he's rerouting power. We strike now, or the regret he feels will be ours. Elena nodded, her dark eyes narrowing. She'd led scavenging runs through the ruins of New York before the invasion, always the one to push forward when others faltered. Now, with the fleet's command ship vulnerable in low orbit, hesitation wasn't an option. The plan had been simple at first. Infiltrate their network with Liam's worm, turn their own drones against them. But the Vexary had adapted faster than expected, their ships weaving through debris fields like predators in a storm. An early attempt had backfired, costing them a shuttle and 2 good pilots, friends whose faces still haunted her brief sleeps. Launch the interceptors, she ordered, her voice cutting through the hum. The deck crew, a mix of engineers and former soldiers, all volunteers from the underground resistance, sprang into action. Consoles beeped in response, and the station shuddered as 4 sleek human fighters detached, their engines flaring against the void. These weren't the Vexery's elegant cruisers. They were jury-rigged from pre-invasion scrap, armed with railguns that spat kinetic fury. Liam leaned closer to the display, tracing the paths. Zoratha's moving the core ship toward the moon's shadow. If we hit them there, their sensors will lag, perfect for the boarding pod. His caution had saved them before, pulling Elena back from reckless charges, but tonight it felt like chains. The stakes pressed in. One wrong move and Earth's resistance crumbled. Cities below were already starving, skies choked with orbital blockades that rained debris like judgment. Kale hissed, his multifaceted eyes reflecting the stars. He underestimates you. All of us did. Your ingenuity, it's not weapons, it's this. He tapped his temple, then the console. We turned their strength to weakness. Betraying his own had cost Kale everything. His rank, his family pod, even the neural implants that once linked him to the hive mind. Now he fought for redemption, his wits sharpening their edges where brute force failed. The interceptors streaked ahead, dodging Vexery patrols with maneuvers that bent physics just enough to evade locks. Elena watched as one fighter jinked left, its pilot, young Marco from the Brazilian enclaves, firing a burst that shattered an enemy drone. Sparks bloomed in the black, a fleeting flower of victory. But then alarms wailed. Zoratha's core ship unleashed a swarm, tendrils of energy lancing out. They're adapting the shields, Liam warned, his face paling. The early plan's failure echoed here. The Vexery had learned from the first hack, layering their defenses with adaptive algorithms. Elena's jaw tightened. No speeches, no dramatics, just the grind of choices. Redirect the pod's trajectory. Use the debris from that last hit as cover. The boarding pod launched from the station's underbelly, a blunt arrow guided by Kale's intimate knowledge of Vexery weak points. Inside, a team of 6, hardened survivors with breaching tools and EMP grenades, braced for impact. Elena imagined their tension, the shared glances that spoke of camaraderie forged in loss. The pod slammed into the core ship's hull, mag clamps biting deep. Breaches followed, sparks flying as they carved through. On the deck, the battle unfolded in fragmented bursts. An interceptor exploded in a silent fireball, its pilot's sacrifice buying seconds. Liam rerouted power from life support to boost the signal, the air growing chill. Kale coordinated with the boarders via a stolen comlink, his voice a rapid staccato of warnings. Left flank, vent the corridor. Elena's hand hovered over the override. The Vexery fleet was closing, their regret manifesting as fury. Zoratha's voice crackled through intercepted channels, laced with alien disdain. These primitives dare challenge the collective? But, beneath it, a tremor, the first crack in their unyielding front. As the boarders reached the bridge, Elena felt the shift. Not triumph yet, but momentum. The cost mounted. Another interceptor down, the station's hull groaning under return fire. Yet in that void, human grit wove through the chaos, turning invasion's tide one calculated risk at a time. The meaning of regret was dawning, not in words but in the stars' unyielding witness. Captain Alara Voss gripped the edge of the console, her knuckles whitening against the scarred metal. The bridge of the repurposed freighter hummed with the low growl of overtaxed engines, every vibration a reminder that they were pushing the old girl to her limits. Smoke curled from a nearby panel, acrid and biting, but she ignored it, eyes locked on the holographic display flickering before her. The alien fleet loomed in the projection, sleek, predatory shapes closing in like wolves on a wounded deer. Their command ship, the one they'd boarded hours ago, now trailed debris in its wake, courtesy of Jax's improvised charges. "They're adapting," Jax muttered from his station, his voice rough over the crackle of static. He wiped sweat from his brow with the back of a grease-streaked hand, fingers dancing across the jury-rigged controls. The engineer had always been the steady one, cautious where Alara charged ahead, but now even he sounded frayed. "That EMP we hit them with? It's buying us time, but their shields are recalibrating. 5 minutes, tops, before they lock on." Alara nodded, not trusting her voice. Below them, Earth's orbit was a graveyard of shattered satellites and drifting hulks, the remnants of the aliens' initial assault. The invaders had come with promises of enlightenment, subjugating worlds under their vast empire, but humanity's ragtag defenses had turned it into a meat grinder. Her team, Jax and the captured alien technician Creve, had slipped through the chaos on this battered vessel, aiming to cripple the fleet's core from within. But plans had a way of fracturing under fire. Creve shifted in the corner, his iridescent scales dull under the dim lights, bound loosely to a support beam. The alien's multifaceted eyes darted between them, a mix of resentment and something sharper, fear perhaps. He'd been their reluctant guide, spilling secrets of the command ship's vulnerabilities in exchange for a slim chance at survival. "You primitives do not understand," he hissed, his translator implant mangling the words into a gravelly whine. "The overmind will not yield. It learns from your ingenuity. Already, it reroutes power to purge your virus." Elara shot him a glance, her brave facade cracking just a fraction. "Then tell us how to make it stick, Creve. Or we're all ash when they vent the atmosphere." She didn't trust him fully, the alien's hierarchy bred loyalty like a disease, but his knowledge had gotten them this far, past the outer patrols and into the heart of the beast. Jax snorted, not looking up from his work. "He's right about one thing. Our little code worm's fighting back. I need to overload their auxiliary reactors manually, get in close, plant the charges." His hands paused, the weight of it settling. It meant suiting up, crossing the void to the enemy ship, while Elara held the line. No room for error, one stray shot and he'd be space debris. The alarms blared then, red lights pulsing like a heartbeat. The holographic fleet icons surged forward, the alien's formation tightening. Elara's mind raced, divert power to weapons? Evasive maneuvers? But the freighter groaned in protest, her hull patched with whatever they'd scavenged from the orbital scrapyard. "Do it," she said finally, voice steady despite the knot in her gut. "I'll keep them off you. Creve, you're with me. Convince your overmind we're not worth the chase." As Jax hauled himself toward the airlock, toolkit clanking, Creve's eyes widened. "You would risk the crossing? Madness. The void claims the unwary." But there was a flicker in his gaze, admiration warring with dread. Elara untied him roughly, shoving a sidearm into his scaled palm. "Earn your keep or join the void yourself." The first volley rocked the ship, inertial dampeners failing in a stomach-lurching wave. Elara braced, barking orders into the comms as sparks flew. Jax's voice cut through the din, launching in 30. "Hold the fort, Cap." She watched the tether deploy on the secondary screen, a thin line vanishing into the black, pulling him toward the alien behemoth. The fleet's fire intensified, beams slicing the darkness, but she weaved the freighter through the barrage, each dodge a gamble with physics. Creve manned the auxiliary console, his claws clicking furiously. "Transmit the false signatures, now." He fed coordinates into the system, mimicking a distress from one of their own damaged cruisers. The aliens hesitated, a brief fracture in their pursuit. Elara allowed herself a grim smile. Human grit, alien doubt, it was buying seconds, turning the tide inch by inch. But as Jax breached the enemy hull, a new alert screamed. Internal sabotage on the freighter. Someone, or something, had tampered with the life support. Creve froze, his expression unreadable. Elara's hand hovered near her pistol, the air growing thin, the stakes sharpening to a razor's edge. Trust was a luxury they couldn't afford, not with Earth's fate hanging in the balance. Captain Elena Vasquez gripped the control yoke of the makeshift shuttle, her knuckles white against the scarred metal. The engines hummed unevenly, patched together from salvaged alien tech and human scrap. Nothing fancy, just enough to keep them airborne over the shattered skyline of New York. Below, the streets crawled with the remnants of the Vexery occupation forces, their sleek hover drones scanning for heat signatures. One wrong move and they'd light up like a fireworks show. "They're gaining on us," muttered Jax, her co-pilot and the team's resident tinkerer. He leaned forward, eyes glued to the rear sensors, his fingers dancing over a jury-rigged console that sparked occasionally. Jax was the cautious one, always double-checking fuses, but now his voice carried an edge of desperation. They'd lost too many already, Sarah in the initial boarding, and Tomas back on the ground when the Vexery ambush hit. Elena didn't look back. "Hold him off. We've got the core in the hold. If we deliver this to the resistance hub, it's over for them." The core, A pulsating Vexery command nexus ripped from their flagship during the raid was their ticket to victory. It held the override codes for the entire invasion fleet. But it was unstable, leaking exotic particles that made the shuttle's hull groan like a living thing. A jolt rocked the craft as a drone's plasma bolt grazed the wing. Alarms blared, red lights flooding the cockpit. Shields at 20%. Jax yelled, slamming a panel to reroute power. He was sweating now, his usual wit buried under the strain. "Elena, we can't take another hit." "Punch it." She did. The shuttle lurched forward, weaving through the skeletal remains of skyscrapers that clawed at the sky like broken fingers. The Vexery drones were closing, their formation tightening like a noose. Elena's mind raced, years of sim training kicking in, mixed with the raw grit that had kept her alive through the occupation. She spotted a narrow alley between two collapsed towers, a gamble that might shake pursuit or turn them into scrap. "Brace," she barked, banking hard. The shuttle screamed through the gap, debris pinging off the fuselage like hail. Jax hooped as the sensors showed two drones smashing into the rubble behind them. But the lead drone fired again, its beams slicing through the tail stabilizer. The world tilted. Alarms wailed louder, the core's hum turning into an angry buzz in the hold. "We're losing altitude," Jax shouted, fighting the controls. Elena wrestled the yoke, muscles burning, forcing the nose up. They skimmed the Hudson's oily surface, waves lapping at the underbelly. "Options?" she demanded, voice steady despite the chaos. Jax's eyes flicked to the core's readout. "We dump it. Or we use it, hack their net right here, but it'll fry our systems. Might buy time for a water landing." Elena waited. Dumping meant starting over, more deaths. Using it was suicide, but it could cripple the fleet chasing them. The Resistance needed this win, needed to see humans fight back not with ships but with smarts. "Do it. Link the core to the comms array. Broadcast the override on all frequencies." He hesitated just a second, his cautious nature flaring, but nodded. "On it." Wires sparked as he bridged the systems, the core's glow intensifying, casting eerie shadows across his face. The drone was right on them now, charging its cannon. The shuttle shuddered as the hack initiated. Elena pulled up, aiming for a derelict bridge ahead. "Come on, you bastards," she whispered. The core pulsed once, twice, then unleashed a digital scream into the ether. Drones faltered mid-air, their formations breaking like shattered glass. The lead one veered wildly, crashing into the river in a plume of steam. Cheers erupted from the Resistance channels, crackling over the comms, distant voices, alive with hope. But the shuttle paid the price. Consoles smoked, the engines coughed, and they hit the water hard, the impact jarring Elena's teeth. Cold flooded in through cracks, but she unstrapped, grabbing the emergency kit. Jax was already hauling the now silent core, his face grim. They surfaced in the churning river, the city lights flickering like distant stars. Vexery ships overhead began to stutter, their invasion grinding to a halt. But as Elena swam for the shore, dragging Jax with her, she felt the weight of what came next. The core was fried, the fleet crippled, but the Vexery wouldn't quit easy. And with the shuttle gone, they were on foot now, exposed. A Resistance boat cut through the waves toward them, its searchlight piercing the night. Elena allowed herself a tight smile. They'd bought time, turned regret into their weapon. But the war? It was far from over. Captain Alara Voss gripped the railing of the command deck, her knuckles white against the scarred metal. The stars outside the viewport blurred into streaks as the human fleet accelerated, engines humming with a defiance that echoed through every hull. Below, on Earth's surface, the invasion scars still smoked. Cities half rebuilt, fields turned to craters, but the tide had turned. Not with overwhelming force, but with the stubborn ingenuity that had always defined her people. Admiral Reyes stood beside her, his face etched with the lines of too many sleepless nights. "They're breaking formation, Alara. The Zarathian dreadnoughts are scattering like rats from a fire." His voice carried the gravel of exhaustion, but his eyes burned with the same fire that had ignited the Resistance months ago. She nodded, not trusting words yet. The plan had been desperate. A virus uploaded into their command network, not to destroy but to rewrite. Human code, laced with adaptive algorithms born from decades of hacking corporate firewalls and outsmarting AI sentinels. It had backfired once, nearly costing them the orbital station, but Lena's team, the quiet engineer with her endless supply of duct tape and wry one-liners, had patched it mid-battle, turning the enemy's own shields against them. Now the Zorathian flagship loomed on the main screen, its crystalline hull fracturing under feedback loops. High Commander Thalvor appeared in the comms hologram, his multifaceted eyes wide with something Elara recognized as fear. "Primitives," he hissed, the translation matrix struggling with his fury. "You tamper with forces beyond your grasp. Cease this or we unleash the core breach." Reyes leaned forward, his response steady. "You've seen what we can do with scraps, Thalvor. Your Empire's tech is impressive, until it meets someone who knows how to improvise. Pull back or watch your fleet unravel from the inside." The alien's mandibles clicked in agitation. Elara could almost hear the calculations racing through his mind. The reports of ground forces surrendering, human partisans dismantling supply lines with nothing but scavenged drones and homemade EMPs. The Zorathians had come expecting submission, armed with superior firepower and a doctrine of unyielding hierarchy. Instead, they'd found a world that fought dirty, adapted faster, and never quit. Lena's voice crackled over the intercom from engineering. "Captain, the virus is holding. Their systems are locking out their own overrides. We've got maybe 10 minutes before they purge it, if they can." Elara straightened. "Buy us 5. Reyes signaled the wing commanders. "Faint left, then hit the auxiliary engines. Make it look like we're going for the kill." The Admiral complied, his fingers dancing over the console. Fighters streaked out, a swarm of hornets against the behemoth. Alarms blared as simulated breaches lit up the Zorathian sensors, holographic decoys, projected from jury-rigged emitters that Lena had cobbled together from old satellite parts. Thalvor's hologram flickered. This is not war. This is chaos." "It's survival," Elara shot back, her voice calm but edged with steel. "You thought you could command us? Earth doesn't bow. We build, we break, we rebuild. And right now we're breaking you." The dreadnought shuddered on the feed, secondary explosions rippling along its flanks. Not lethal, not yet, just enough to cripple navigation, force a retreat. Thalvor vanished from the comms, his ship veering away, trailing debris like a wounded beast. Cheers erupted across the deck, but Elara held up a hand. Silence fell, heavy with the weight of what came next. Reyes met her gaze. "They'll be back. Smarter, meaner." "Maybe," she said, turning to the viewport where Earth spun below, blue and battered but unbroken. "But they'll think twice. And we'll be ready, stronger because we had to be." Lena joined them, wiping grease from her hands, a faint smile cracking her fatigue. "Next time I'll add a backdoor. Just in case." The fleet formed up, escorting the limping Zorathian remnants toward the system's edge. No total victory, no parade, just a hard-won breath. Scars would linger, lost colonies, fractured alliances, a galaxy now wary of the primitive rock that had turned the tide with grit and guile. But as the stars steadied, Elara felt the pull of home, the quiet promise that humanity's story was far from over. Regret, it seemed, was a lesson best learned the hard way.